From introducing a character that doesn't even exist in the game, to giving multiple characters entirely new storylines, The Last of Us on HBO is very different from the original game. Starting with, they revealed the secret behind Ellie's immunity. In the game, it was never revealed why Ellie was immune.
They'd make me count to 10 and hold out my hand and then keep it steady. But you know, I think what really impressed them was the fact that I didn't turn into a monster.
Just that she could be the answer to the cure. But the show takes things a step further by introducing a new character and a whole new scene just to give us context. At the beginning of episode 9, we're introduced to Ellie's mom, Anna, back when she was pregnant with her. She takes refuge in an abandoned house, thinking it's filled with fireflies. But surprise, surprise, it's not. An infected breaks through the door and Anna is forced to fight it off, not realizing that she's giving birth at the same time. Fast forward a bit, and we find out that Ellie's immunity to the cordyceps fungus is all because of her mother. You see, Anna was bitten during the fight with the infected, and when she cut the umbilical cord connecting her and Ellie, some of that cordyceps made its way into Ellie's system. But here's the thing, Ellie wasn't infected at all. In fact, Marlene later explains that the cordyceps, already in Ellie's system from birth, act like a chemical messenger, and makes the new fungi entering her body think she's already infected, rendering her immune to its effects. But one person who didn't have this luxury and broke our hearts on the way out was Tess. After losing poor Sarah in the opening scenes, I really thought we'd had our fill of heartbreak.
Don't move!
My daughter's hurt. Her ankle.
Stop right there!
Okay. Easy now. We're not sick.
I got 2 civilians by the river.
But then Tess comes along and rips our hearts out all over again.
I'm sorry.
Well, how about we just let it go?
In the game, Tess met her end trying to help Joel and Ellie escape from Fedra agents. But in the show, things are a little different. The agents are already out of the picture, and it's the infected that are causing all the trouble. Joel accidentally attracts them by shooting his gun, and that's when Tess steps up to save the day. She sets up a bomb to blow up the building they're in, but just as she's about to light the fuse, an infected shows up. And well, let's just say things get weird. The infected seems to have some kind of fungus growing out of its face, and it gives Tess a kiss that sends tendrils slipping down her throat. But even with all that horror, Tess still manages to go out like a total badass. She ignites the bomb, and it goes up in flames, taking out a whole bunch of infected with her. It's a pretty epic moment, even if it does leave Joel and Ellie reeling from the shock of it all. Even though Tess's death was just as tragic in the game, I have to admit, it somehow felt even more impactful in the show. Maybe it's because we got to know her a little better, or maybe it's just because the circumstances were so different. But either way, it's safe to say that Tess's sacrifice is one we won't be forgetting anytime soon. Tess wasn't the only one who died differently than from the games. It was the same for Henry and Sam. In The Last of Us show, Joel and Ellie hit the road and head towards the Midwest. It's all going pretty smoothly until they get attacked by some locals. Joel and Ellie, being the tough cookies they are, manage to fight them off. But the rebellion leader Kathleen ain't too happy about it. She's been leading her people against the Fedra, a group that sounds just about as lovely as it is. And now Joel and Ellie's actions have only fueled her fire. Luckily, they cross paths with Henry and Sam, who are probably the most likable characters from the game. Kathleen's brother was apparently the good-hearted type, and when he died, she took over as leader and continued to lead the charge against the Fedra. While their actions may seem violent and irrational, it's easy to understand why they'd do anything to survive. Henry had been working as an informant for Fedra, trying to get Sam the medication he needed for his cancer. It's all very heart-wrenching and desperate. Kathleen meets her end at the hands of a clicker before she can shoot Henry, but the damage had already been done. Sam gets bitten by an infected and turns into one of them overnight. Henry is forced to do the unthinkable and kill his own little brother before he infects anyone else. It's a gut-wrenching scene, especially since Ellie had promised Sam that her blood would save him the night before. But when she wakes up the next day, there's only an infected in his place. Henry can't live with the guilt of what he's done and took his own life. The show handled his death in a much better way, but not everything was refined in the show. The whole point of Neil Druckmann being so involved in the show was that the showrunners could take everything that made the game amazing and take things up a notch. To do that, they had to work extra hard on the set design. This one we're going to have to talk about in detail. Now, with a show that's entirely based on a game, you'd think that it's easy to just CGI everything you possibly can. If they've done it for the game, it's easy to replicate those things again. But that's not the direction Craig Mazin wanted for the show. He wanted things to be as real as possible, and that's why there's barely any CGI in the show. Take the restaurant fire scene for example. Considering the whole place was going to go toast, you'd think they'd cheap out on the design elements, but that's not how they did it. Everything from the tables, the drawer with the knife, to the curtain that's going to start the fire, all of it was set up exactly like the game to get it all done perfectly. And that's not the only thing. While other shows tend to create Hollywood snow just so the actors have an easier time acting, Craig took the entire cast to Calgary in the middle of February and threw in some industrial-sized fans to blow actual snow all over. With that, they were actually freezing, which just brings back the feeling of the controllers buzzing away with the shivers for people watching. Not only that, but throughout the show, you've been given a glimpse of the lengths they've gone to get all the little details right. The mall is one of the biggest examples of that. Not only was the entire mall created to mirror the game exactly, but even the little things, like the Raja's neon sign, to the film being too old to develop properly for their photo booth picture, every little thing was on point. All of that wasn't just a treat for us per se, but also made the actors perform their best. Because no matter how good of an actor you are, there's only so far your imagination can take you. If you think about it, the mall scene wouldn't have hit the same way had they been working with a green screen. The fact that they were able to interact with the whole set made the episode that much better. Same goes for every little decision they've made for the set. If you think about it, even the giraffe scene was real. Having Ellie feed the giraffe by her hand, and having Bella Ramsey's eyes light up the same way Ellie's did. It's just one of the many ways Craig Mazin took this from a show based on a game to one that's come to life. Because while you can CGI anything at all, in the words of the location manager Matt Palmer, it's just not the same. And I have to agree. And those were all the little things that The Last of Us has changed from its story.